Good morning. My name is Jeff Oldacre, and today we'll be discussing our PLC agenda document that's been revised each year. This is for our current 2018-2019 school year. As you notice on the very top of this, it has the words Ignite. Ignite is our new district motto as far as igniting our students to be successful, igniting our teachers to be excited about teaching, to also to be excited about changes for student success. And this is a new focus for our school year this year. The very top of the document, it has our district goals stated. The following performance levels will be met at a minimum by all students, including all student groups. 25% will attain masters, 50% will attain meets or higher, and 75% will attain the approaches or higher grade levels on our STAR test. At least 75% of all students, including all student groups in all subjects, will achieve expected or accelerated student progress measure. Increase our student and campus attendance rates to 96%, and create a district and campus culture that will result in an increase in teacher retention to 85%. Quinlan usually has a very high turnover in teachers each year. We hire a lot of first-year teachers. They get their one-year experience and continue to move on to maybe locations closer to their home or to higher pay level districts. We consider ourselves a great training district, but our goal is to increase our teacher retention to 85%. The first district goal, the following performance levels will be met. The criteria here, in our math department, we have personal goal of achieving 30% on our masters and at least 60% on our meets or higher, and 75 to 80% on our approaches are higher than that. Based on our district ratings by the state, we need to increase our masters and our approaches to get a better grading system for our district. Last year, our struggles were in our sub-pop groups, and so there's been an increased focus on assessment data to look at each one of the sub-pop groups as far as growth compared to their scores last year and to achieving these district goals up here. The next box over here is we put our date in and we write down for our team members present. And then today, in our section, in our meeting today, we will have this will be for presentation to the staff. You would fill in your names for your department, their presence, document that. And during most of our PLCs, they are scheduled through our course schedules, our staff schedules. We try to get the same conference period for each of our core subjects. For example, in sixth grade math, we each have both of the instructors there have the same conference period. That allows us to have our PLCs during that conference period 1 day a week. And this is across the board with all of our core subjects. Our administrators know our scheduled day that we have our PLC, and they usually will try to be present for our meetings once a week, just to pass on district information, new guidelines or new requirements for the next week, any district activities that may be going on that will affect class instruction. It's also a great time just to have open conversation about issues or concerns or our thoughts and excitement about successes that we have had in our classroom. The next level on our PLC agenda is review our team norms and goals. Each of our core subjects will set up guidelines or goals, personal goals that they have, team goals, guidelines that we have for each of our meetings. And some of the things we have talked about for our meetings in the sixth grade math is to be on time to our meetings, turn in all required documents by our due dates, no phones during meetings, uh, classwork, student work, questions that we may have. That's our time to collaborate and discuss any issues, thoughts that we may have. The past 4 years, we've had a brand new teacher for sixth grade math. This year we have an experienced teacher that's coming from another school district, but she has not taught sixth grade math. She has taught lower level. She has high credentials. She is working on her counselor degree. She would also like to be in administration in the next 5 years. Very knowledgeable, very, very dependable, very creative colleague. So a lot of our discussions about our team norms and goals is to stay in communication about what is due. How do we turn in grades? How do we do certain campus procedures that they're not aware of? So this is an opportunity too for our PLCs to sit and talk about, okay, this is how we do things up here. Not to say that we never talk during the rest of the days during the week. We talk every day during our conference period, just about students, how to handle certain situations, and so forth. The next section is praises and celebrations. What has been successful? What are weaknesses? How can we improve our students? Are we ahead or behind compared to last year? I've been here. This will be my 10th year here at Quinlan, and so I have data from the previous years, and so this is an opportunity for me to detail and talk about how we compared to last year, the year before. Are our scores a little higher? Are they a little bit lower? Just an opportunity to talk about things like that. But our praises and celebrations are talking about what has been successful. How did we have a good day? How did our students understand something? What was their teaching style? What was the activity that you did? And so it's a great opportunity just for collaboration and expression of ideas. The next section is our learning and teaching. This is the bulk of our meeting. This is where we talk about if we've taken a unit test and we have scanned our unit test and we've got our data. We're looking at the results. We're looking at our sub-pop groups. We're looking at individual classes. We're looking at what TEKS did we struggle on. How can we improve? What do we need to do to bring these students back up to the required level? This is a time too that we talk about our advisory class. We have an advisory class that is implemented into our daily schedule for 30 minutes each day for our students to be placed in groups based on their STAR scores from last year. And so and in sixth grade, we're teaching 2 days of math and 2 days of reading because that is what our STAR test is about. We have a reading and a math. So we focus on different levels of instruction for each of the classes. We have 3 or 4 classes that were really struggled last year, and in the classroom they're struggling with multiplication and division issues. So that is our focus for that. The rest of our classes was based on what do we struggle with on our last unit test? What are we talking about currently in the classroom? What can we do to give that added instruction and that into that 30-minute time period? Intervention, enrichment, targeted students. We're looking at what students do we need to talk about, maybe bringing them together for tutorials. Do we need parent contact? Do we need to change our lessons. What was successful? What was not successful? Uh, but this is the bulk of our meeting. We're talking about the data, our students, our successes, our concerns. And this is also our time that we discuss our lesson plans for the next week. Where are we at compared to our year at a glance? Are we on pace? Are we behind? What can we do to get caught up? So these are very important topics for our PLC. The next part is the nuts and bolts. This section right here is just basically, okay, are our grades due next week? Did we turn in our personal goals? Were we on time with our attendance each day? Are there issues there that we can help work out things? Is there anything that we're having problems with technology-wise? Curriculum is usually discussed in our learning and teaching part, but these are the housekeeping school business. If there's a pep rally scheduled next week, how are we going to do this? Is there going to be, are we taking a day off? What can we do planning for the sub? Things like that. So these are the topics that are very small. This does not take up the majority of the meeting. And our last part of our agenda is to decide what would we like to discuss next week. And in this case, our next agenda for us personally would be our Unit 3 test results. We'll be taking that this week, and that's our next discussion that we're fixing to do in this video, is that we have the authority and opportunity to look at our unit tests prior to administering it to our students. So that's our next section here that we'll be talking about. Also on the very bottom of our PLC agenda, we have a Think Rights team plan. What this is an increase in our writing samples from our students. 3 years ago, they omitted the 7th grade writing class and instruction for our 7th graders. And our scores have really dropped the past couple of years, so there's been an increased focus on how can we improve our writing. And so what our requirement is that we do 2 writing samples per month. And it's based on our core subject. So each month we design 2 open-ended, real-life scenario type questions for our students to write. It may be an example of you went to Walmart and you had $35 and you went and bought 4 apples and 5 potatoes and so forth. How much money do you have left? And they're figuring the cost of each of those items and kind of doing writing the scenario on how they spent their money, where did they go, and it's just a storytelling time. In our part of it, we're not grading punctuation and grammar. It's just to monitor, are they growing? Are they improving in their writing skills? And so our requirements for this is 2 samples each month, and we will send those copies in to our curriculum director based on scores that we do. We do a high, low, medium. And so another discussion we look at, what did we learn from those student responses? The focus is on writing, but it's also at the same point in time, all of our questions focus on a math process. So each of our subjects on your Think Rights, a great opportunity for you to focus on a topic that you're discussing and to verify, and this is type of a formative assessment for our kids to see if there's a student gained knowledge or understanding. So this is the area there that's kind of been adjusted for the last 2 years. Our next section we'll be talking about, this is our Unit 3 test. We usually get our unit test given to us about a week before we administer it to our students. And the benefit is from our testing coordinator is that we will discuss in our PLC each question on this test. Do we like it? Do we want to change it? Do we want to reword it? Do we want to omit it? And so that gives us an opportunity, and we make the final decision, and we send it back to our testing coordinator, and she will activate the corrections, and then that's the test that we'll give to our students. In this case here, we have 17 questions on this test, and we're just going to go through some of the examples on our thoughts on how we would look at this and make our decisions. In this case, we're focusing on multiplying and dividing decimals for this unit. And so we're looking at some different questions to see if it's covering our one readiness TEK, which is multiply and divide positive rational numbers fluently. That's our readiness TEK for Unit 3. We have 3 supporting TEKs that are focusing on rational numbers, reciprocals, and so forth. So the main focus is, are we testing these kids at a high level for our readiness TEK in preparation for STAR? First question says, Mark is having a birthday party. He bought 8 pizzas to be shared equally among 40 people. Which 2 equivalent representations could be used to determine how much pizza each guest will receive? The first thing is probably using a pictorial model. They could draw 8 pizzas and then figure and say, okay, I've got to divide that by 40 people. Pictorials in math are very, as an increased focus on our instruction. Are we going to be able to have kids draw pictures on every problem they do? No, but they need to understand what the question is asking, and providing a visual is a great learning tool. In this case, the focus would be, how do we write 8 divided by 40? So we've already omitted 2 questions, and now their decision is which one of these is equal to 8 divided by 40. So this is a great question. This is a question that we will keep into our test for an understanding of how to do a division problem, maybe in wording. Number two, we've looked at, and we're kind of concerned a little bit, but this is a multi-step type test problem, because right here, our answer is going to be a rational number, whole number, or fraction, and we have a decimal here. So the first step was to change this to a fraction. And in this case here, they would have to put the reciprocal. So this is a multi-step problem, which is very relatable to STAR level questions. So right now we will keep this question. Number 3, Anne cut her king-size chocolate bar into 12 equal parts. She ate 7 parts. Which equation shows 2 equivalent ways to represent how much chocolate is left? Same process here as the question number 1. So we'll keep this question in too. Number 4 is kind of a basic, it's a very easy question. Dividing a fraction is the same as keeping the first fraction, changing it to a multiplication, and using multiplied by the reciprocal. So this should be a question that should be very successful, hopefully, for our students. Number 5, our question here is, what happens when we multiply a whole number by a fraction? Does it get smaller or bigger? So the perfect example that we do in our classroom is we do 4 times 1/2. So what is half of 4? It's 2. So when we're multiplying a whole number by a fraction, it gets smaller. So the challenging on this question right here is all of the wording. Will our students read? the question. So that's our challenge on that one. So it's a great question because that's what we've gone to in math is words, not math problems. So this would be great. Same number 6 is the same focus. What happens when we multiply by a mixed number? And that's our first step is they're going to have to realize that 13/12 is greater than 1. So when you multiply something by 1 or more, the number gets bigger. Looking at this question here, the picture is kind of confusing to our kids. They'll have to read our question. There's a lot of details to this, and this is a question that we're not real sure about keeping. The next one is a griddable. In this griddable, we try to keep 1 to 2 griddable questions on every one of our tests just for practicing on bubbling skills. And so far in our first 2 units tests, there's not been too much of an issue for our students to understand how to put in a whole number into bubbling it in. So number 8 is a great question for our griddables. The next one, Claire wants to run a total of 5.5 miles. Each lap around the track is 0.25. And so in this case, there's nothing wrong. What we try to do is to visualize the football. The field is right next to our campus, and there's a track out there. And they're constantly going out there during their pre-athletics. For them to just visualize how far did they go for each lap. So it's a great question that they could relate to in the classroom based on the track next to our campus. The next 3 or 4 questions here is the challenge is to figure out, are we going to multiply or divide? In this case, we're getting some gummy bears at the store. And the visual is that we had this in our buggy and we're checking out at the store and they say, this is how much you owe. And this is how much each pound was, so they would have to multiply. So these 3 questions here, number 12 is a great question because this is a 3-step program, 3-step question. There are 24 dinner tables. There's 8 chairs at each table. Each ticket costs this. And if only 3/4 of them were full, how much money was arranged for the tickets? So this is a very needed visual for them to figure out there were 24 tables and there's 8 chairs at each one, do their multiplication and so forth. It's a great question. The next 3, 13, 14, and 15. 14 is different. It shows 15.3W. And this is the thing we've taught for 6th grade. 6th grade math has changed from 6 with x times 3 is 18. Now it's gone to 6.3 is 18. And it's also gone to the 6 next to the 3. And all of these 3 processes are multiplication. So in this case right here, student understanding of 15.3W means 15.3 times something. And that W represents the something. And what could that be? So the best process there is to try each of these numbers and multiply it and see what's the best part. Number 15 is a great question because it's real life. Talking about mowing lawns in the neighborhood and so forth. And this is something that a lot of our kids can relate to that they do at home and during the summer. So our last 2 questions is 17 is a question we like to look at because it has a story, but then it just has an equation to solve. And so a lot of times our students get lost in reading this and they need to just focus on the equation that was given to us. So this is a great opportunity for their reading skills and their focus. And the toughest part for them is it's the last question on the test and they are ready to be finished. The thing I'd like to close with is that our PLCs are focused for collaboration, for ideas, for solutions, for corrections, for support for each other, the teachers, and also support for our students. How can we improve? How can we improve our teaching, personal teaching skills? How can we help each other? How can we learn from each other? A lot of the goals in this right here is to be humble to be able to take criticism, be able to take thoughts, to say this worked for me, this is what I would do, and be able to be humble enough to say yes, we can make some changes in our teaching styles. It's also camaraderie. It's a point to console, to help, to be very supportive if there's challenges. Is we're not one teacher's not successful, how can we help make that successful? Work together. We are a team. The benefit of our PLCs too is that the administrators have scheduled themselves, one of them to be in our meetings with us. This is an opportunity to have discussions, issues that instead of in a staff meeting, we can talk about thoughts that we have, concerns that we have, and also we're getting feedback and decisions from our administrators to tell us and guide us to say, based on their years of experience, years of walkthroughs or observations, some ideas to help us to be successful. That's the focus of our PLC. In my future career, hopefully as an administrator, I will schedule PLCs. I think it's a very beneficial and needed collaboration of the teaching staff, and I will be involved with each of the core subject PLCs. I think it's an opportunity to get to know the teachers. I could do a walkthrough and we could discuss that in our agendas. It's just a time instead of coming to the office and feeling, trying to discuss up there with other people waiting in line or so forth. This is the opportunity. I'm providing that opportunity for that particular grade level subject to discuss their issues, their concerns. The form that our district uses, I really like. I would probably change, a couple of things, but the creating the next agenda, the think rights, I think need to be discussed, but it also needs to be a separate document and a separate focus. Okay. But yes, does it need to be implemented in our PLCs? I agree it does. I think our district has set up a very good plan by giving 4 district goals. This is a constant reminder for us. We meet weekly. We will document, we will fill this out, and this will be turned in or emailed to our campus administration and also to our curriculum director. So this is also a point too, in our last part, what we use this, what's the plan? Our curriculum director, what she's wanting here is, do we need any new resources? What can they do to help us? And so this is a great opportunity for communication to our curriculum director and instructional coach that's over secondary. So this is our communication to them. They're very prompt in replying to our requests. They're very, very detailed. They will do anything to help us that's within the legal and budget issues of our campus and district. So this is a great opportunity for communication with other administrative leaders. The other benefit, I think, is the camaraderie, the collaboration of the teachers teaching the same subject. Uh, different different thoughts on the test. I like the the focus on having the opportunity of going over the tests a week before our administration of the test. It's for us to look at it, to focus on are we covering this detailed in our class? Or what do we need to focus on? How can we have student success on this test without just giving the test questions to them prior to it? We need to teach the process. We need to teach the philosophy and the understanding. So this is a great tool that our district does too, and it's very much appreciated. The support from our testing coordinator, uh, in cases like this, if we're having issues with the test or with our testing or scanning or anything else, what we do is we can schedule that for our testing coordinator, or even sometimes we can ask our curriculum director, send an invitation to join our PLC. This is kind of like a designated time for planning and everything else, and so our district is very open for invitations to other administrators to attend these meetings and to get extra thoughts and ideas, which is very, very beneficial to our success here at our campus. And like I say, in closing, I think that PLCs are very is a very beneficial requirement of a successful campus and school district. Uh, you need to have detailed guidelines for your PLCs, and I think our designing an agenda would be a high focus for me in my job as an administrator, and I look forward to seeing the successes of at my campus based on collaboration and also my input, meeting with the staff on a one-on-one or in a core level subject meetings. It's a very good opportunity to teach, learn, and support the staff. Thank you for your time.